The administration's agenda was at the center of a fierce, acrid, and deeply partisan battle on Capitol Hill, culminating in a significant judicial confirmation. The Senate voted yesterday to confirm Emil Bove, a top Department of Justice official and former personal lawyer for President Trump, to a lifetime seat on the powerful U.S. Court of Appeals for the Third Circuit. The confirmation was razor thin, passing on a 50-49 vote with no support from Democrats. The process was among the most contentious in recent memory, marked by a walkout from Democratic senators during a committee hearing and serious allegations from multiple whistleblowers. Opponents painted Bove as a political operative unfit for the bench. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer labeled him a henchman and the extreme of the extreme. This opposition was fueled by three separate whistleblower complaints from within the Department of Justice. One former prosecutor, Erez Ruveni, alleged that Bove had floated the idea of defying court orders related to a controversial deportation plan, a claim Bove has denied. Further opposition came from a letter signed by more than 900 former DOJ employees who accused Bove of trampling over institutional norms, citing his role in the controversial dismissal of federal corruption charges against New York City Mayor Eric Adams. Supporters, however, stood firmly by the nominee. Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley dismissed the allegations as unfair accusations and abuse. Grassley stated that his staff had vetted the claims and could not find evidence of misconduct, arguing that government lawyers aggressively litigating and interpreting court orders isn't misconduct. It's what lawyers do. During his confirmation hearing, Bove defended his record, stating, "I am not anybody's henchman. I'm not an enforcer. I'm a lawyer from a small town who never expected to be in an arena like this." President Donald Trump has issued a direct ultimatum to Russia, giving Moscow until August 8th to agree to a ceasefire deal with Ukraine or face a new wave of American sanctions. Speaking to reporters aboard Air Force One yesterday, the president stated he would grant Russian President Vladimir Putin a 10-day window to come to the negotiating table in good faith. Should that deadline pass without an agreement, the administration is prepared to implement not only a new tranche of direct sanctions against Russia, but also secondary tariffs. This secondary measure is particularly potent, as it could penalize other countries and companies that continue to do business with Moscow, effectively forcing them to choose between the Russian and U.S. markets. The move represents a significant escalation of pressure aimed at ending the long-running war in Ukraine. However, President Trump himself expressed some skepticism about whether the threat would be enough to alter President Putin's strategy. "I don't know if it's going to affect Russia," Trump said, "because he wants to, obviously, probably keep the war going." The international community will now be watching closely as the August 8th deadline approaches, a critical moment that could either pave the way for peace negotiations or trigger a new phase of economic confrontation. Meanwhile, on the domestic front, the Trump administration is moving forward with a sweeping environmental policy change. The Environmental Protection Agency yesterday proposed a full repeal of its endangerment findings. These findings, first established in 2009 following a Supreme Court mandate, determined that greenhouse gases endanger public health and welfare. They have served as the legal foundation allowing the federal government to regulate emissions from motor vehicles for over 15 years. EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin, speaking at an auto dealership in Indiana, called the proposed repeal the largest deregulatory action in the history of America. According to the EPA, this would eliminate $1 trillion in regulations and save the economy an estimated $54 billion per year. Zeldin argued the action would end 16 years of uncertainty for automakers and American consumers. He also accused previous administrations of having twisted the law, ignored precedent, and warped science to achieve their preferred ends, and stick American families with hundreds of billions of dollars in hidden taxes every single year. The proposal is expected to face immediate and fierce opposition from environmental groups and is almost certain to be challenged in court. Staying with the courts, a federal judge in Washington has weighed in on a case concerning transparency at the nation's central bank. U.S. District Judge Beryl A. Howell on Monday rejected an emergency request from an investment firm that sought to force the Federal Reserve to open its closed-door monetary policy meetings to the public. The plaintiff, Azoria Capital, had sued the Fed, arguing that its practice of holding federal open market committee sessions in private violates the Government in the Sunshine Act. That 1976 law generally requires multi-member federal agencies to allow public attendance at their meetings. The Fed has long argued that confidentiality is essential to foster candid debate among its governors and to prevent premature market speculation that could destabilize the economy. While Judge Howell denied the emergency order that would have applied to the Fed's upcoming meeting, the ruling does not end the matter. The broader lawsuit challenging the central bank's decades-long tradition of private meetings remains alive, with the investment firm vowing to continue fighting for transparency. And finally, federal health officials are taking new action to address an emerging threat in the ongoing opioid crisis. In a press conference yesterday, leaders from the Department of Health and Human Services and the Food and Drug Administration announced new measures to protect the public from the opioid 7-hydroxymitragynine, also known as 7-OH. The substance is a key psychoactive compound in the kratom plant. While kratom itself has a complex legal status, officials are zeroing in on 7-OH due to its potent, opioid-like effects and high potential for abuse. Appearing alongside Senator Markwayne Mullin of Oklahoma, HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and FDA Commissioner Dr. Marty Makary outlined a new strategy to get ahead of the substance's proliferation. While specific details are still emerging, the new measures are expected to include enhanced public health warnings, stricter import controls on products containing 7-OH, and a potential recommendation for scheduling the substance as a controlled drug. The announcement signals a proactive effort by federal agencies to prevent a new substance from gaining a foothold and exacerbating the nation's deadly opioid epidemic.